Welcome to another episode of Cyrus Podcast. Today, I have Daniel Garcia. Bro, I am so excited to have you on today, man. I appreciate you.
I'm excited to be here.
I was going to say I appreciate you being here, but really I came out here not knowing because you're like, yeah, I live in Victorville. But bro, we're on the water.
Yep.
And we were gonna record the podcast at his house, and then we saw the water. He's like, "Yeah, I could take you out on the boat." I was like, "Let's just record the whole thing on the boat," So I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
When we first met, I saw your or you told a little snippet of your story. We're on a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that story, and I was like, "That's impressive." And it's not impressive like in the fact that sometimes like you look at something and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so like unreachable. I think the most beautiful thing about like your story, and I'm gonna dive into it, but the most beautiful thing about your story that I love so much is that it's like what we keep talking about. It's simple. It's just putting in the work.
Yeah.
And making no excuses.
Exactly.
And you've been in the real estate business for how many years?
In December, I'll be licensed for 2 years.
Licensed for 2 years, and you had 342 transactions last year?
We're at 365 now.
365 in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So 2 years doing 365 transactions is absolutely insane. I freaking love that. But like I said, your story is the more impressive thing. So I want to kind of dive into that. So let's talk about like, what did you do before? Let's talk about what did you do before real estate.
So before real estate, I did several things. So do you want me to go into my injury, or?
I want to hear what you did before real estate, and then get into how you got injured.
Okay, so before real estate, I was training professional boxers as a dietitian and strength and conditioning coach.
What did that look like on a daily basis?
So I pretty much work with top of the funnel boxers that at the championship level, and I'm in charge of their strength and conditioning, customizing their diet plans, and then prior to fight, the week of, it's my job to dehydrate them so we can make the weight, and then right after the weigh-ins, I blow them back up so the night of the fight we're much bigger and stronger than our opponent.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very it's a lot tougher than what it sounds, because not too many people get it right.
How'd you get into that?
I started in 2012. Actually, I used to work out at UFC gym in Rosemead.
Okay.
And I had a boxer by the name of Leo Santa Cruz, and I was in the wheelchair at that time. So he came and he came to the gym, and I just worked out at UFC gym. I didn't even train there or anything, right? I just worked out there. And he came in looking for a strength and conditioning coach to help him with his next fight. And so he asked around, and everyone pushed them over to me, right? And I didn't understand why, because I didn't do that. Yes, I was, certified, and I do have the knowledge, but I didn't work for the gym.
Yeah.
Right. So he ended up coming to me, and he said, I'm getting ready for my first world championship fight against Busi Malinga. And my biggest concern is when I go into the later rounds, I get tired. So I don't throw as many punches in the first round, so that I don't gas out by the 12th. So I told him, when I'm done with you, you're going to throw more punches in the last round than you did in the first round. Okay, that was, and you could see that fight. It was on Showtime, I believe. And sure enough, I trained him we went into that fight. In the first round, he threw 108 punches. In the last round, he threw 120 punches. And he was one of the top volume punchers in boxing at the time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now, you mentioned you were in a wheelchair.
correct.
Why were you in a wheelchair?
So I fell 4.5 stories off of a power line pole. The last thing I remember was belting over the pole and falling backwards and looking up at the sky as I was falling. And the first thing that hit the ground was my spine and then the back of my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did that happen? So that was 2012 that you met the what was his name?
Leo Santa Cruz.
Leo Santa Cruz. And then when did that, like, how long were you in the wheelchair before?
So that injury happened in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2010 you fell off a power pole. And then now you're telling me you were in a wheelchair 2 years later working out at the gym?
Correct.
Why?
I was in the gym. Actually, I tried to work out when I was in rehab, right after the injury. So it was a long stay at the hospital. I was there for several months. But the reason why I am still alive is because prior to that fall, I was bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of muscle on my frame, and my body kept intact. And so when I got into the gym, or not the gym, sorry, the hospital, I atrophied. At that time, I atrophied to 115 pounds. And so I ended up, looking at myself for the first time in the mirror after 2 months, I think. I saw myself in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself because prior to going into the hospital, I weighed 180 pounds.
Wow.
So right away, I said, I couldn't lift my arms over my head. I couldn't move my legs. I mean, I was paralyzed, right? So, I started working to get stronger. And so yeah, as soon as there's a hospital in Whittier. It's called Casa Colina. So as soon as I got into, that's a rehabilitation hospital for paraplegics and quads.
Yeah.
And I got in there, and they have a gym for people in wheelchairs, and I started working out there. And as soon as I got out, I mean, that was it. My mindset was to get back in the gym and try to. I wasn't giving up on walking.
Yeah.
So I got in there and I started working out and putting my weight back on, eating healthy, and little by little I started. My legs wouldn't respond yet though; they weren't responding yet. But I got my upper body strength back. I gained some weight. I got muscle back. So it was 2 months after the injury. I was already working out again.
You grew up in where'd you say you grew up again?
I grew up in Rosemead.
Okay.
But yeah, San Gabriel Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to see like what like how you got your mindset, right? Because this thought process of like it's like never give up
Yeah.
mindset, like where did that come from? Was that from someone when you grew up? Was that from being a bodybuilder? Like how did you get that thought process and that mindset?
I say it's pain, bro. It's pain. I think you know something about that too. And I believe with everyone that I've worked with and the successful world champions that I've worked with, you look at their story and they've had some painful upbringings, right? And I think it was pain. Pain is what basically built that mindset. I think it was pain.
And as you grew up, like going through different painful moments and things like that, is that what built like this thought process where you got to keep going, or was there like a certain instance that you feel like that changed your mindset?
So the injury was definitely, so I didn't have that mindset to, it wasn't as strong as it is today.
Yeah.
Like today, I know I can do anything, right? Back then, I had to build up to it. So that fall was definitely one of the game changers. That fall was the one. I think it was the fall, because I was told I'd never walk again, right? And a lot of people that get told that, they believe it and they
Yep.
stop trying, right? And I said to myself, I'm gonna walk again. It was that fall. It had to have been that fall.
What a trip, man. Like thought process wise, like I don't. It's such an interesting thing. Like as we're having this conversation, because what you're saying is like so powerful, and the fact that like you didn't feel like you could do everything or anything until you couldn't do anything,
Correct.
which is like this concept that like every day we take it for granted. I mean, I'm sure like you did.
Yeah.
As you think about it, I had conversations with some of the, I coached USC women's soccer for a little while, and I tell the girls sometimes, like, I wish I had one more day to train.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had that ability to be able to do that, to go on and compete at that level one more day.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't realize it until you don't have it. And then now you have this thought process where nothing can stop you, which is so freaking amazing. I freaking love that, man. Now that fall happened. You realize, now you have this realization that like people telling you can't walk again, you're like, no, screw you, I'm gonna walk.
Yeah.
You go into the gym, you start doing it, you start working with these world-class boxers. And then fast forward, so that's in 2012. Fast forward to now 2024, 12 years later, and you're running one of the top real estate teams in the country, units volume.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to?
I mean, that, it's, so one thing that we missed out is in 2020, I had a relapse. Okay. So when that fall happened, all my internal organs ruptured.
Wow.
So it wasn't just the spinal cord that broke. It was my internal organs. My esophagus was connected to my small intestine, and my stomach was removed. And so in 2020, it was during COVID too. It was August of 2020. I had a bowel obstruction. So something happened inside of me, and I was in the worst pain. And it's so funny because I was out here when that happened. I was hydrofoiling. Yeah, and so when that happened, I was in the worst pain imaginable. I went to the hospital, and they didn't know what was going on. They took CTs. They said nothing. It was fine, right? They didn't do anything for 3 days. I was in the worst pain in my life for 3 days. I was curled up in the bed begging them to do something. They wouldn't do something for 3 days. I called my wife and I said, hey, they're not doing something. Get me out of here. And they didn't do anything until my intestines ruptured. When my intestines ruptured, I went septic and I was out, right? And I was fighting for my life again. And when that happened, they let my wife into the hospital to say goodbye. They told her, you need to, they wouldn't let her in because of COVID, right? Nobody was allowed in because of COVID. And so she ended up sleeping outside of the hospital. So they gave her a monitor to be able to watch me, and so she wanted to make sure that they were turning me, because they were not taking care of me, and they didn't know what to do with me. And so she was making sure that they took care of me. So she stood outside the hospital for a whole month, and she slept out there. She even got a power generator, and she made it happen, right? Because they were annoyed by her, because she would be,
So on top of
on
them.
top of them. Did you turn them? Did you? And so they weren't happy. So they started giving her the monitor with no batteries. So then she got a generator. She started plugging it, and she was there the whole time. So when they let her in to come and see me, right? At that time, in the back of my head, when you're in that state, like people don't know, a lot of people don't know, but when you're in that state, you make the decision to pass.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was out of it. I was suffering, and so I said in the back of and I remember this. I said my wife and my daughters are going to be okay, right? I try to convince myself of that, right? And I decided to pass, right?
Wow.
In that instance, it's weird. In that instance, they allowed her to come in, and so I heard her crying from afar. She was right next to me, but I heard her crying from afar. And so obviously I'm very defensive of her, and I started getting closer and closer. And yeah, so that's when I made, I realized, like, it's not my time, right?
Wow.
So they brought me back, and so um, she told me, you fight in here and I'll fight out there. So they didn't want to release me, and another hospital didn't want to take me because I was a liability, right? And so she reached out to my specialist in that hospital, and she said, what would you do if this was your wife? And he says, I'll do everything I can to get him in here, because at first he didn't want to get me in, so he took responsibility of me.
Yeah.
And so she got me out of there, and she took me there, and they saved my life there. So when that happened, that moment when I thought she's not going to be okay, why did I think that? Well, right now, at the time, all we had, we were well off. We have money, right? But we didn't have a business, because money goes.
Yep.
If you don't know how to manage it, you become a millionaire and it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know. So I said to myself, I need to build something for her, so when the time comes and I do pass, I'm going to be able to leave that to her, and she's not going to have to work. This business is going to function for her, and she's going to have money for the rest of her life. So that's why we do what we do. Last year, or was it 2022, I had 6 surgeries, okay? And right after my surgeries, I would go show homes. Right after I would wake up, they would tell me, don't drive. I'd get in the driver's seat, my wife gets in the back, and we go show homes.
Wow.
And my clients, they're witnesses to that. They would see me with, I had tubes coming out of me, bags coming out of me. I would still be bleeding, and I'm showing homes. So it's that determination. When you want something in life, you do whatever it takes to get there. So yeah, that's our mindset. And you know what? I'm fortunate to have my wife, because she thinks just like me. And we've both been through so much pain that this is nothing.
Yeah.
Right? This is easy. So that's what got us to. It's the pain, it's the suffering that we've been through. I think everything else, it's easy.
Well, and it's you said it there. You made the decision to be here.
Yeah.
And that is so freaking powerful. I think that like we could skip over that very easily, but you don't realize like how much our minds and our decision and our will is able to create down the line. And at that moment when you were deciding to either go hey, I'm done, I can't fight anymore, or I'm going to stay here and fight.
Yeah.
That's the decision that changed not only your life, but everybody around you's life. You know how crazy it is, like perspective wise, as I'm thinking about this, is like you didn't just like by doing that, by starting this business, you're not only changing your life, you're literally like with the real estate side, these people that you're helping get into homes, I guarantee there's people that never thought they could own a home before, especially in the market that you're in.
Yeah.
You're changing their lives and generations as well.
Yeah.
Which, in my perspective, it's like the conversation you and I had the other day, like on the phone, is like, that's what our legacy is.
Yes.
You know? That's what our legacy is. That's what your legacy is, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, building what you're building right now and positively impacting someone every single day is amazing, but it's because of that decision that you made.
Yeah.
And so when you're in the grind of it, and you're in pain, and you're getting out of surgeries and things like that, was that an easy decision to make to get in that car, or was it a decision that you had to think about?
No, that was easy. I was focused. Like, no, we planned it before the surgery. We said, okay, surgeries, we got to be at the hospital at 4 a.m. Surgeries at 6. I'll be up by this time, and our appointment is at this time. And as soon as I woke up they put me to sleep, I woke up, here we go. You know, get the car, I'm ready to go.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's just,
And do you think that decision-making process is so much easier because you have that purpose?
I think so. I think there has to be purpose in life, and we all have it. If it's your family, we all have it. We all have it. If it's not, you know, your kids, for most people, there's something. There's always a why, right? But how much are you willing to do to reach that why? And I think that's what separates most people, is they're not willing to try hard enough or to reach that goal. I don't understand it, because my day to day, it's very difficult. Like, as we speak, I have a candy in my mouth to prevent my blood sugar levels from dropping, right? So I every day, you know, I gotta make sure that I don't allow my blood sugar levels to go to 0, because I have what's called short bowel syndrome, right? And I carry an inhaler in case I do go down and I pass out, and somebody's around me, they can bring me back by putting it up my nose and you know, blowing blood sugar into my brain. That's every single day. I have to catheterize every single day to urinate. I empty into a bag every single day, multiple times. Sometimes my bag busts, you know. My body doesn't agree with everything that I eat. I'm supposed to be living with a backpack and TPN and IV fluids, right? That was supposed to be the way I was supposed to live today, right? They released me with a backpack and TPN and IV fluids, and they said, this is how you're gonna live for the rest of your life, with a PICC line going into my bicep and into my heart, and that was gonna be my life. And I said, no, it's not. And I pulled it out, and I adapted, and I figured out a way to live, you know, and be able to thrive without having to resort to those things. So most people have it easier, right? But I even with everything like that continues to happen to me, I still think that there's no excuse, you know. It's all up here. Your bodies are just vessels, right? And you tell your body to go. You tell your body what you want it to do, and it will do it. You just got to be willing to suffer, right? I deal with chronic pain every single day, right? That's nothing. Like, I laugh at it, because it's like, how do I manage chronic pain? I don't take any pain meds, right? I got myself off of, you know, every time I was hospitalized, they put me on oxycodone, and I got addicted both times, and I got myself off of it by using the gym, right? So
Yeah.
how do I manage pain? I manage pain by going to the gym every single morning, working out. The endorphins we produce with exercise is stronger than any morphine in the world, right? But people don't realize that, right? So I truly believe, like, we can do anything in life. You just gotta work hard towards it,
Yeah.
and don't put boundaries. We set our own boundaries in life. It's crazy.
100%.
No, you can do it. It's hard of me when people come to me with excuses.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to sympathize, because most likely I've been there,
Yep.
and if I haven't been there, I've been through worse, and I've overcame it, and they can overcome it.
Yeah.
It's just they have to believe in themselves.
I think it goes back to that choice, right?
Yep.
It goes back to choice, and it goes also. It's something that is so inherent to, like, where, like, it's love. Like, that's your why.
Yeah.
Like, we could talk about it. It's like people always talk about it with me, like, Cyrus, you're a badass, you're this, you're that, they'll tell you you're a badass, yada, yada, yada. But, like, at the end of the day, I'm always like, I'm a lover, man. Because that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because I love my people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure my people are going to be taken care of.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah.
Because we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Exactly.
You nor I.
Yep.
Right? So what can we do today to positively impact the world forever moving forward? And that was, like, a big reason why, like, why I wanted to sit here and have this conversation, because I think your story is so powerful. But your story is truly a story of love, man.
Yeah.
It's like I almost cried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so amazing, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And what I do have a question for is, if you had to give one piece of advice for someone struggling to make that decision to execute on whatever it is they want to accomplish, what piece of advice would you give them?
Don't give up. Be unstoppable. Do whatever it takes to reach that goal. Figure out what that why is, and be unstoppable. Don't let anything hold you back. I think that's one of the most important things or one of the best qualities we can have is persistence.
Yeah.
Not giving up.
Just don't stop. Keep going.
Keep going. We're going to fall. We're going to fail. But as long as you keep getting back up, it's I mean, when I made the decision, here's another decision I made. I skipped it. So in 2018, my last Ironman competition, I said to my wife, here I did something that a very few amount of people do in their lifetimes. What I've accomplished. Why am I still in this chair? And I told her, I'm going to get out of this chair. I'm going to get rid of this chair. And my legs could not support my weight, right? And so I did everything in my power to get out of this chair. And that meant falling hundreds of times. I mean, how many people would have given up after, the first couple of falls? They're like, there's no way, right?
Yeah.
No, I fell and fell and fell, and I kept trying. And it was painful. But in my mind, I knew I would get to the point that I am here today. The other day I walked a 10K. I didn't think I'd ever be able to do that. So it's just that persistence, just not giving up, not getting rid of all that negative people around you, and just believing in yourself, and just keep going, and you will accomplish it. You just got to keep going. And if you look at the amount of time it took me to get to, you know, from going from the wheelchair to walking, it took years, right? But it was, I could have gave up any along the way anytime. But the fact that I never gave up, you know, as much as those incremental results came about, you know, I paid attention to everything that I could do.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started, I took one step, okay, 2 steps, 3 steps, you know, and I pay attention to everything to push myself like, no, it's working.
Yep.
Just keep going, you know. Today was my leg day at the gym. I just started working out my legs again, and I did, you know, I did squats and leg presses and hack squats, and I didn't think I'd ever be able to do that, you know. But every week I jot down everything I'm able to do, and the next week I need to beat those times.
Yeah.
You know, it's just persistence, man.
Well, it's a physical game, but it's more of a mental game, right?
It is.
Like that's what we're talking about, and it's also like you know, everyone looks at like, you know, hey, look, all of the accomplishments. We could go look at your house, freaking biggest house on the water. You know, we could go talk about all of this. People are like, oh yeah, you know, he doesn't struggle as much anymore. It's like, no, you still fall probably.
Yeah.
You know, I do. You know what I mean? Like I still make mistakes every single day, but I chase that.
Yeah.
Because if we don't chase failure, then we're not chasing progress.
Exactly.
And I want to progress every freaking day of my life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. So I freaking love that. I appreciate you so much for making the time to do this. And I appreciate you bringing me out on your boat, man. Thank you for sharing your story. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Adaptable_realtor on Instagram, Daniel Garcia on Facebook, and our website is fitnessrealtors.com. Yeah, reach out. I get a lot of people looking for some inspiration and looking for people that need help in tough times, and I'm always willing to help.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me.